Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest on the collapse of thousands of businesses in the hospitality sector, with Brexit being cited as the main factor. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So, hospitality has faced an incredibly tough few years, really. The pandemic lockdowns obviously closed them down completely. There's no way of really doing trade there. And even in the periods between, far fewer people would have been going to the pubs or the restaurants. You know, when Rishi Sunak did his Eat Out to Help Out, used public money to persuade people to go to restaurants in 2020 after the first lockdown, ill-advised at the time, it ended up, surprise, surprise, causing a huge spike in infections, which then necessitated the second lockdown. But as COVID restrictions were eased, there was suddenly a huge demand for hospitality. You know, people who may not have gone out that much before were all of a sudden sick of being stuck inside, and they wanted to hit the town after the best part of a year facing restrictions. So those businesses getting back up had no problem with demand, the issue with supply. You know, for those businesses who got through 2020 and of course the first part of 2021, should have been boom time. But according to figures reported in The Independent, the latest is that there have now been double the number of hospitality business closures in the last few years than in the few years before Brexit. Now, that in itself doesn't automatically mean Brexit, because other things have happened as well. You might argue that, well, COVID, of course, COVID would have impacted this figure. You would certainly imagine that energy costs rising so much would have, you know, for both pubs and restaurants. You know, leaving the single market for energy, that's not really helped. But the massive increase in the cost of energy, especially for businesses, has, I think it's fair to say, been more down to Tory government policy than exiting the EU. Yes, prices would have been lower without Brexit, but they could still be lower now if the government applied windfall taxes to oil companies and used the money to offset the higher cost of gas that we had last year. Mind you, the wholesale price of gas is back down, but the energy prices sure aren't. So yes, energy prices more to do with the cost of Tory than the cost of Brexit. But what is emerging from reports is that the businesses closing down and the businesses struggling and who may have to close down, they're not citing COVID as an issue. They're not citing energy problems as their main reason for failure, but just being unable to hire staff. They're saying, by and large, there are some, of course, who've gone under because of those energy costs. But by and large, what we're getting is they're saying that it's being unable to hire staff. They can cope with the cost of the energy. They cannot cope with not having staff. And it's quite interesting because at the moment, as you know, coincidence would have it, the Brexit headbangers are pointing to labour shortages in Germany and trying to prove that our own are global, not Brexit related. But what they conveniently fail to mention or notice is that Germany's labour shortage is more of the skilled labour needed for rapidly growing sectors of the economy. Now, we have those shortages as well, although we don't really have much that's growing rapidly in our economy. But we have a particular issue of shortages of workers for jobs that have been around for decades, centuries even in some cases. You know, the reports out of Germany are saying we have this explosion in the sort of high-skilled tech jobs for which there aren't enough skilled workers. You know, what's happened is there's a part of the economy is blown up and they now need the workers to meet that demand. The reports out of the UK are saying we've got loads of jobs that have been around for donkey's years, but a collapse in our supply of workers for them. Very different labour shortage problem, and on a different scale as well. We can't say that we're short of wait staff or cooks because restaurants and pubs are a new sector, like we've never had pubs before and it's a rapidly growing market. If anything, pubs and restaurants have been in decline over a great many years. So those remaining in the sector, the businesses that can still survive in that sector, should have found it easier to hire staff. And the industry itself is crystal clear about what the problem is. This isn't just a few people looking at it from afar. The people in the industry, the people running these businesses, are clear about what is the problem, what is the existential threat to their business. We've lost access to the single market and the European labour market. There was plenty of talk about EU citizens nicking our jobs before Brexit. Well, those jobs are out there now. Where are all the gammons applying for them? Where are they? Businesses are literally closing down because they cannot hire workers. One cited in the article was a Michelin-starred restaurant. Just can't get the staff. But even like ordinary pubs and restaurants, whose hiring demands will be way lower, they cannot get the workers that they used to have easy access to. Because before Brexit, the problems facing hospitality would have been like, fewer people going out maybe because of the cost of living. Because although we talk about the cost of living crisis now, we've actually had it for a decade. As people's disposable income disappeared, so did demand for hospitality. Can't afford to go out as much. But businesses aren't blaming reduced demand. They've had extra demand. Vacancies are 48% higher than before 2020. That's the problem, they say. That is the problem. And think about the impact on the local economy, because not only is it lost income to the council due to loss of business rates and to the country, but if a business can't hire enough staff and closes down, then all of their because it's not like they have no staff. They still have staff. Well, all of those staff now lose their jobs. Some of them will get work at a competitor. There'll be a competitor also struggling to hire. They'll take some of them on, very nice, but not all of them. Each business going under is a net increase in unemployment in the local area, because it's not like there are other businesses that could take on for which those workers would have suitable skills that are booming. That's not happening. And also this isn't like when a business fails because the owner is poor at business. If there was a niche, what normally happens if a business goes out of business because it just wasn't good at business, their competitors provide the extra supply for those old customers because the customer's there, the demand is there. They may even hire on some extra staff to meet it, but that's not the case here. The businesses are not generally failing because there's not enough custom to go around in the area, but because they cannot supply that demand due to not enough staff. So when a business fails under those circumstances, the demand remains unmet because if their competitors could meet it, they already would be meeting it. It's probably worth pointing out how the government defended themselves in the article. We need to give the government side of things. So they said a few things. They said that they've been working hard to fill vacancies through their Hospitality Sector Council and Plan for Jobs, and that vacancies fell by 16% in the last year. Good show. So let's go over those one by one because the journalist writing the article couldn't be bothered. First, the government have been working hard to fill vacancies. Now, according to the business owners quoted in the article, there was no hard work required before Brexit. One even said that before Brexit, they had 10 good applicants for every position. Now they're lucky if anyone shows up. Second, the Hospitality Sector Council. Now, this is new. This is new since Brexit. So therefore, straight away, it's immediately something we've needed to deal with Brexit. It's supposed to be a link between the sector and the government. Well, the sector are asking the government to help them get more workers, to return to access to the single market. The government are saying no. Council meetings must be such fun. We need more workers. Have you thought of advertising for more workers? Yes, we do that. Okay, did that work? No. Good talk. Third, this plan for jobs. That's the scheme that they're throwing out there. Oh, we've got this plan for jobs. This is hilarious. The plan for jobs scheme is it's a government initiative which offers certain inducements for businesses to hire workers. How are they defending the lack of job applicants by waving around the plans for jobs? The plans for jobs is a scheme for trying to get, when you've got an area of unemployment, trying to get businesses to take on some of those unemployed where the jobs don't naturally exist, offer them inducements to basically take on more staff. It doesn't do anything for businesses who are desperate to hire staff. This is the reverse problem of what jobs for work, where the plan for jobs, what the plan for jobs does. This is the reverse problem. The businesses want the workers aren't there. Doesn't do anything. Fourth, and that's just before I go on to the fourth, that's how you can tell the government are doing nothing about this and have no plan. When they actually say, oh yeah, we are doing something, what are you doing? Oh, there's this scheme. That scheme has nothing to do with it. If they can't actually name a scheme, that actually will help, and they name a scheme that's got nothing to do with it, that it's because they've got no plan. They've got no answers. So therefore the problem won't go away. But the fourth thing, so they said that vacancies fell by 16%. Okay. Did they fall by 16% because all of a sudden new workers were found? Or is some at least of that 16% drop in vacancies because the businesses collapsed, and when a business goes out of business, it doesn't need the staff anymore? Because it's not really a win if the number of vacancies has gone down because the overall sector has shrunk, is it? What this government response is, it's the same old, here are the names of some schemes that we've got, which will do absolutely nothing to help, but it sounds like they might to people who won't look up what they are. Classic case of lots of activity, zero output. The bottom line is, hospitality is a particularly badly affected example, but whole sectors of our economy are suffering because we've lost access to almost an entire continent of workers. The Bank of England last year said quite clearly they're getting from businesses across all sectors of the economy, the number one problem they cite is lack of workers. It hasn't, Brexit hasn't magically meant loads of good jobs for UK citizens. In fact, ironically, it now makes it harder to get a job in many areas because businesses have gone under, reducing the overall number of employers and therefore jobs on offer. And when you consider moving outside of the services sector, it gets worse, of course. When we produce less, such as food, obvious example, because our food supply chain is also struggling for labour at all ends of it, then we have to import more. That means we pay more and earn less as a country. And double trouble because our trade barriers also make it harder and more expensive to import. So we pay extra for manky food in the supermarkets now. That is when there's food for sale at all. What we actually need are real solutions. Rejoining the EU would, of course, be best, but we at least need something. Not a government who tries to deflect blame by talking about a government programme which bears no relation to the problem that they are failing to do anything about. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.